Barbara Hatch, their advisor. And let me tell you a little bit about Barbara before she comes up to speak to us. She began her teaching career with the Peace Corps, teaching English in Senegal. And since then, she's concentrated on teaching history. 10 years ago, she founded what was then called the Arizona Heritage Project, a club at Cactus Shadows High School. That club has grown into the Veterans Heritage Project with over a dozen different chapters in several states. Barbara is a recipient of the Copper Sword, the highest award for a civilian from the Arizona Veterans Hall of Fame. She also received the Mary Smith Lockwood Foundation Medal for Education from the Daughters of the American Revolution. Last year, she received the 2012 Arizona History Teacher of the Year Award from the State Board of Education. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Barbara Hatch, who will bring us up to date on the activities of the Veterans Heritage Program. Barbara?
Before I start, I want to recognize Park Shaw's nephew, Command Sergeant Major Sumner Shaw, who served 2 tours in Iraq. And of course, Park, a dear friend. Thank you, Park. Remember how cold it was last year? Who can believe this is Veterans Heritage Project's 10th year, and the 5th year we have co-hosted Veterans Day with the town of Carefree. As I look out over all of you today, your faces remind me of what a journey it has been. Saturday at the Vintage Car Show in Paradise Valley, we sought out John Winterstein, and he's here. Raise your hand, John. There he is over there. Who was the former chief of police for the town and a Vietnam Marine. When someone asked him about being interviewed, he said, "I'm in the White Book." So today is the story of the books, which is really a story of the students and the veterans they have interviewed. As Veterans Heritage Project's mission is to connect students and veterans to develop an appreciation for an America they will one day lead. The Blue Book, 2004-5, Our Leap of Faith. Celeste Hobroch, a parent, laid out the book. Students still did hours of transcribing. Celeste's son Kyle built our beautiful exhibit, cutting out and staining small pieces of wood glued to the boards onto which he drove his car to seal them. Park Shaw opened his home to interview the amazing men and women veterans he knew. The students wrote a stage play based on the interviews. J.D. Hayworth said a few words while I stood on a chair to address the crowd. We paid for the book after we had sold them. We didn't have any money back in that day. The Red Book, 2005-6. Mark McCullough, a student, laid out the book. It took Kyle Hobroch 4 months to complete the sketches for each section as he pored over military books and donated veteran photos. Park once again opened his home so we could interview patriots like Jim Morris and others. I flew to Boston to interview my submariner brother Bob in a 3-hour rainstorm. We moved the reception to Terravita's clubhouse, but forgot to set up chairs for the guests. The White Book, 2006-7. We finally got to include Kyle's logo in full color. Veterans began to find us instead of searching desperately to find them. Vietnam veterans finally began to open up without fear of rejection. Goebel James was a POW in Vietnam for almost 5 years. We moved our reception to the Carefree Resort, but the 2-room configuration didn't work for book signing. Kenny Dahlberg reminisced about sleeping in a tent in the desert with Barry Goldwater. The Green Book, 2007-8. New layout crew, Libby Day, Patrick Ward, a letter from Bob Dole. Our in memoriams still fit on one page. We hosted a teacher workshop for PBS that was moved to Cactus Shadows after ASU's union caught fire. We began to travel, San Diego and Albuquerque for conferences, Gallup and Prescott for interviews, including a Navajo code talker, Albert Smith. One of my veterans returned from service in Iraq. Our reception moved to the Desert Foothills Library in Cave Creek, but the weather was 110 degrees. The Tan Book, or the Khaki Book, 2008-9. A scramble to capture as many World War II veterans as possible. A Tuskegee Airman, Thurston Gaines. NASA artist Bob McCall shared his studio with Megan, our artist. A renewed awareness of the forgotten war with Korean veterans Arnold Pose, Pete Morgan, Billy Stevens, Dick Walsh. In came the Vietnam Marines, Dan Ryan and Rick Romley, who told Patrick Ward his story. Colonel Gene Raffinelli, who worked with the South Vietnamese troops. Tom Milburn, a dog handler. And a determination to find more women who served. Martha Coons, Pat Little Upa, Sue Woody. Move the reception again to the Desert Foothills Lutheran Church, where we would remain for the next 2 years. Our first trip abroad, a World War I trench in Belgium, Normandy, the hedgerows. The Gray Book, 2009-10. Tried to get Air Force colors, but it looks more like West Point to me. You make up your own mind. Finding more Cold War veterans like Jim Kelsey, who also served in Vietnam. Our Gulf Afghanistan veteran list grew. We lost General Frank Sackton. Patrick and Ashley laid out the book. We needed 2 pages now for the in memoriam. More and more veterans shared their stories with Cactus Shadows students. The Vietnam veterans finally felt validated. We co-hosted our first Veterans Day in Carefree. We had red, white, and blue shirts back then. We were back at the church for our reception. Students ordered me to take them to Germany, Austria, Poland, and the Czech Republic. Caitlin Campbell said, "We're going to Auschwitz, and you're taking us." We lost Megan in the snow. The Purple Heart edition, 2010-11. Brainstorming the color, I looked at samples and said, any color but purple. Sage Williams said, "We thought Purple Heart colors would be nice." Purple. We co-hosted our second Veterans Day event with the town of Carefree. Where's the purple shirt? There we go. And had veterans and students sign quilt squares, which you see over there. The book layout crashed on deadline day and we had to start over. Dick Dubeck, Special Forces, told me to put on blinders and just focus on the mission. Our reception moved to ASU West. Students visited Battle of the Bulge sites in Holland, Belgium, and Luxembourg and said hello to General Patton. Salute to the Navy, 2011-12. Having been through military colors, we moved to branches of the service. We included our first color pages. Veterans Heritage Project added 2 more schools, Ironwood Ridge in Tucson and Shadow Mountain in the PV district. This allowed us to interview more veterans from our long list. Brenna Leach, our president, was accepted into the Air Force Academy, and Maddie Pascale, vice president, the Naval Academy in Annapolis. My husband and I visited Uncle Ho in Hanoi with 2 senior girls and saluted our lost veterans at Cu Chi, Da Nang, and Saigon. We lost Ken Dahlberg and Judge Michael Ryan, but found a World War I veteran, Andy Rash, who attended our 4th Veterans Day in Carefree. Our reception at ASU West had 600 in attendance, including Colonel Bob Patrick, director of the Veterans History Project in Washington, D.C. Salute to the Marines, 2012-13. We were up to 12 schools and 2 editions of the book. The Phoenix edition, which Kamal has, I don't think we brought up. We call this the big book. And then the Tucson edition, the baby book. Thank heavens for the internet. 160 veterans interviewed, including White House Dr. Connie Mariano. More students connecting, more lessons passed on. Bill Canfield, World War II Navy, did the art. More veterans leaving us, including Buzz Schilling, Murray Pulver, Ralph George, and one of my students, Caitlin Campbell. 5 VHP students visited the DMZ in Korea, along with cemeteries to honor Korean and American veterans. Dr. Michael Crow told 700 people gathered at ASU West, "It doesn't get any better than this." 2013-14, a salute to the Army. Turn around. There we go. Green and khaki, 14 schools, 3 books, the big book, and twin baby books. We finally produced a guidebook to train new schools. I added my high school in Alton, Illinois. Dreams of going national, dreams of finding large donors to help us interview that long list of veterans who are eager to tell their stories while there's time. Back to Carefree today to celebrate our veterans, and back to ASU on April 13th for our 10th reception, where we hope all of you will join us. If we're hanging from the rafters, we're hanging from the rafters. I am humbled by the journey, and I look forward to whatever retirement brings, mostly Veterans Heritage Project. So thank you for being here today, and thank you, John.
Thank you, Barbara.